Okay, hi. This is just a very brief video on how to use StatTools to generate an Excel and a StatTools regression analysis. So what I've got is I've got a file of data open. This happens to be farm data in the US, and there's 60 observations of data, as you can see on the left-hand side. So what I need to do first is I need to start StatTools. So I've got my spreadsheet open, and if you look at the top, you can see home, insert, draw, page layout, formulas, data, all the way over to help. Well, now when I click on or start my StatTools, you can see it says here initializing StatTools. And you will see in a second that the StatTools icon will come up after the help. And so that's the first thing you need to do when you open your data spreadsheet is you need to start StatTools. Okay, so it's taking a second. I get the logo icon, and then I get a little StatTools option up here. Okay, second thing you need to do is you need to go to Dataset Manager, and you need to define what your data is for your analysis, right? And so I can go ahead and define, if I want, a new data set, and I can just go ahead and data set one, click on this little icon over here, and I can just grab all of this data all the way down. And I'm grabbing the first column, even though I really don't want to use it, but I'm grabbing it just so you can see how it's done, right? So then I click on OK. And so now what I've done is I've defined the data set for StatTools. And this, you got to do this. You can't do any analysis until you do this. So you can see it's basically defined three variables: year, number, which is really a number of farms, and then size or acreage of farms. And I click OK. And now my data is defined to StatTools. Then I can use StatTools for all kinds of things. I can do summary graphs, and so I can do scatter diagrams or scatter plots if I wanted. I don't really want to do a scatter plot right now, but I could do a scatter plot to see how things look. I can put the number of farms on the x-axis and the size of the farms on the y-axis if I want. Then I can power up a scatter plot here, and so you can sort of see this is what the scatter plot looks like. Probably what I should have done was put them on a reverse axis, but basically what this is saying to me is as the size of the farms, number of farms goes up, the size decreases in an inverse relationship, right? So I got that scatter plot. I don't really want to keep it. It's actually created as a separate Excel file. If I wanted to keep the scatter plot inside my original file, I'm going to right click down here on scatter plot. I'm going to say move or copy. I'm going to drop this back down to my data file, and I can put this at the end of that data file. And so now I've got my farm data, the answers to the homework, and scatter plot here. Okay, back to farm data. What I really want to do is run a regression analysis, right? So I need to come up here in StatTools, select regression and classification, select regression, and now it's going to want to create a regression model for me. As I said to you before, the year is just unimportant to me. And the dependent variable is the size of farms. And the independent variable, the number of farms. So I want to see what happens to size when the number changes, right? So now there's some other tabs here. There's parameters, and you can look at that, but there's not much exciting there. There's graphs, and so if you wanted to get a histogram or a scatter plot or any one of these other diagrams, you could generate that as well. The residuals, remember we talked about errors, is really the residuals. So we could, we could click on a number of these, like residuals versus fitted, residuals. You can do histograms or whatever. Doesn't matter. You don't have to do these. And then on the options, you see the display regression equation. That's a good thing to have. A check for multicollinearity. We'll get into that later. And probably you'd want to do that, but for right now we won't do that. And so I click OK, and I'm going to poof, I'm going to get my my regression report, my regression output. And that's what you need. And so you need to analyze this for class. And notice that I got my diagrams down here. And unless you know how to use those, it's not particularly useful. But again, when I want to put this regression back in the major file, I right click on the title, I click on move, and in this drop down box, I go back to my PUED 630 file, and this is now being moved over to my main file. Hopefully it's taking a second to do that. So anyway, that's what you have to do for running StatTools for your assignments, for all really the rest of the assignments for this semester. Not sure why this doesn't want to do a move right now, but that's really the important part that we needed to see. And I hope it's been useful to you, and we should be able to power through this with no problem. So I'm going to stop the share right now, and I'm going to end or pause the recording here.